Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. Welcome to today's video. Today I'll be showing you how to use the autopilot function on the Boeing 707 by Aeroplane Heaven. Currently we are located at Mumbai Airport and will be taking a short flight to Ahmedabad Airport in India. And along the way I'll show you how or if the autopilot functions as per the manual. So let's jump to the cockpit and I'll show you the basics because the autopilot mode control panel is different in this aircraft, this being a vintage aircraft. So I'll just show you the basics first and we'll start the engines, take off, and then proceed with the tutorial further. I have made a separate video for how to start the engines on this aircraft, so you can go and check it out. I'll provide the link or the video card on the top right of your screen. You can click that and find the tutorial on how to start the engine. So without further ado, let's go ahead with the rest of the video. So welcome to the cockpit of Boeing 707. Let's familiarize ourselves with the autopilot mode control panel so as to speak before I show you how to operate it, because there are a few quirks which we need to look at before flying the aircraft, because this autopilot is completely different from what we get in modern airliners. So just to familiarize yourselves, I'll show you how where each of the buttons and switches are located and what they do. All right. So before that, a few things to keep in mind is that the yaw damper switch must be on before you try to use the autopilot. So make sure that is that. So these three panels you see over here are mainly where the autopilot lies. Okay. So this small panel will start from the bottom. This small panel over here is the flight director panel. So another quirk of this aircraft is that the flight director and autopilot are independent of each other, not like modern airliners. So you will have to, select each mode individually for flight director and autopilot. So how this works is coming to this panel over here. This is the main autopilot panel. You can say that, and this finally is the COM and nav frequency selector. So this is COM1, nav1, COM2, and nav2. Okay. And another important thing you need to do is that if you want to follow the frequency which you have set on nav1, make sure that nav source is selected to nav1 over here. Okay. For example, if you set the frequency in here in the navigation 1 window, and your source for the aircraft is navigation 2, it won't follow the path. Okay, so make sure that nav 1 is selected and the frequency is set over here. Same thing if you want the aircraft to follow the frequency set on nav 2 window over here, you need to select the source as nav 2. All right. So yeah, that was the overview. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of this autopilot. So we'll start with this main panel over here. Uh, this aircraft, of course, does not have auto throttle as far as I can tell. So you'll need to manage the power and the speed manually. So make sure that whatever you mode you are engaging over here is compliant with the speed limits and all that. That you will have to do that manually. This is mainly for lateral navigation and a little bit of vertical navigation, which I'll show. So starting at the leftmost knob over here, you can see nav, heading, man, LOCVOR, GS auto, and GS manual. So we'll start with the nav. This is the basic navigation mode. This makes the aircraft follow the GPS route which we have set in this GNS 530. Okay, Garmin. So, and also important thing, as I said, you need to select or maybe I didn't say it at that time, but I'm seeing it now. You need to select the CDI to GPS mode over here, which I'll show you show it to you during flight. But if you have been flying the general aviation aircrafts in MSFS, you know that if you want to follow the GPS path, you need to select the GPS over here using the CDI key. Okay, otherwise the aircraft won't follow the pre-selected path. So nav nav mode follows the GPS path as I said, and also you need to select. It's not currently showing over here, but once we start the aircraft, it will show over here. I think that's a bug in this aircraft, but yeah, never mind. So once you select nav over here, you need to select the same thing in the flight director as well. Otherwise, it won't show you the correct flight path which needs to be followed. For example, if you select heading over here and the flight director you select to nav mode, the flight director will show you which path to follow to capture the GPS route, not the heading. So pre-selected heading, I mean. So you have to take care of that. And to select the heading, you use this knob over here, which moves this yellow bug or which you can see. So to follow the desired heading, you need to select the desired heading on this HSI and then select autopilot and flight director modes both to heading mode and engage the autopilot. Same with nav mode as well. If you want to follow the nav mode, you need to select the CDI to GPS and select both this knob over here, autopilot knob and flight director knob to nav. Now manual mode is something which I don't think many of you will be using because this is like the control wheel steering mode in Boeing aircraft. It will just make the aircraft wings level and maintain the current pitch whichever uh, you have selected. So that's that, nothing much to it. And also when you are in manual mode, this if you want to turn the aircraft, you will be using this knob over here. And another thing which it says in the manual is if you are in any of the modes and you use this knob, it will deselect the current mode and move it to manual mode. So be careful not to press or rotate this knob while during the flight if you don't want to follow the manual mode. Okay. Then LOCVOR is self-explanatory. It's the localizer frequency which you have set in the nav1 or nav2, which the aircraft will follow. And again, for that, you need to select the CDI to V-lock mode and engage the autopilot knob and the flight director knob to localizer VOR. And the aircraft will follow the desired VOR frequency until it reaches that VOR. Okay. Following this is the GS Auto and Auto Approach. Both are the same. This is for the autopilot and this is for the flight director. And for autopilot, when you select GS Auto, it will try to capture the localizer frequency which you have set in either nav1 or nav2 and also the glide slope. Uh, so that is that. This is the like the approach mode in the model airliner. Glide slope manual, I'm not going to uh, it's not that complicated. It's the same as GS Auto, but you can capture the glide slope even if you are below the desired glide slope. So that's what it says in the manual. So you can select that if you have missed the glide slope and have gone below that. Okay. And now this is for the lateral navigation. When it comes to vertical navigation, you only have this pitch control knob over here. So it's self-explanatory. For if you want to pitch up, you rotate the wheel to pitch up position, and if you want to move the aircraft downwards, then rotate this wheel to down position. So that is it for vertical navigation. Apart, except one more thing. Once you reach the, if you want to hold at an altitude for following any altitude constraints, you can select this switch over here. This is the altitude hold switch for the autopilot, and this is the altitude hold switch for the flight director. So once you turn it on, the flight director will show you the command bars to maintain the desired altitude or the current altitude. Sorry. All right. So when the holds mode is active, this won't work. The pitch up and down won't work. So keep that in mind. And this is the window where you select the desired altitude. So whatever the altitude you want to select before taking off, you can do so over here. And this is the barometric pressure knob, which it's self-explanatory. You select the barometric pressure for the location which you are at as per the ATC. So yeah, that's about it. And one more thing, this is like the FMA. Uh, so I'll explain this as well. We'll start from the right side. So the FMA indicates the current modes in three levels mainly, or two levels, I should say, except for the autopilot annunciator over here. So once you turn on the autopilot, this should turn green, which means that the autopilot is on and engaged. MD is non-functional. GS, so once you arm the glide slope, it will show orange over here, and once the glide slope is captured, it will show green. This is for the localizer frequency, or the VOR or localizer. Once it is armed, it will show orange, and once it's captured, it will show uh, green. And same for FMC. FMC is the navigation or GPS route. When you so if the aircraft is way off from the GPS path, it won't automatically turn to follow the GPS path here. You need to be at a certain distance and capture it at a 45-degree angle. So if you are way too off from the uh, desired GPS path, it will show orange over here, and once the GPS path is captured, it will show green. Okay. Yeah, so mainly that is about it. We'll start the aircraft and see you on the runway. Once we take off, I'll explain the autopilot functions further. So currently we are on the runway 09 of Mumbai Airport, and the aircraft is ready for takeoff. But first of all, we'll set a few things. So today uh, I'll be flying at a height of 10,000 feet. Just for this tutorial, I'm not going to take it to the cruising altitude because I don't want to, the descent and all takes time. But anyway, we'll set the desired altitude. You can set your cruising altitude over here, and also the barometric pressure. Just check if it is at as per the current weather. Then, if you want to follow the GPS route, press the CDI key over here, and you can see it selected the GPS mode over here, and the HSA also indicates that. Make sure that you move your heading bug to the runway heading, and I think the autopilot mode is currently in the manual mode. So if I move it to heading mode, see what happens when I move the heading bug. As you can see, the flight director will also level off at the current heading, uh, because the current heading matches the desired heading. So we'll keep the autopilot mode at manual currently, and move the flight director mode to nav. And since we are in the straight line and following the navigation route, it won't change over here. Okay. I'll also pre-select the localizer frequency for the destination airport, uh, and make sure that the nav source is selected to nav 1, so that it makes it easier for us to capture the glide slope and the localizer. And yeah, that's about it. Once we take off, we'll engage the autopilot and change these modes to match the lateral navigation we want to follow, and also we'll try and adjust the aircraft pitch using these wheels over here, the pitch control wheels. So we'll see how it goes. Let's take off and see you on the other side. And as you can see, the FMC light is green over here, which means the GPS path is captured. But we'll see once we take off how it follows it. Again, as I said, there is no auto throttle in this aircraft, so you'll have to manage the pitch and power manually. So I've engaged the autopilot and will move the mode selector to nav mode. And as you can see, the FMC light has turned green. So it should technically follow the navigation route, but as you can see, it is just going straight ahead and not turning to follow the GPS route. So I think that is a bug. Let me just select the heading mode and we'll turn the aircraft manually towards the desired heading and see if it helps us to capture the. So we'll also see if we can control the pitch of the aircraft using the pitch control wheel over here. So I'm currently moving it down, and as you can see, the vertical speed indicator has moved downwards slightly to 2000 feet. We'll also reduce this vertical climb rate a little bit more, around 1500 feet per minute. Throttle, there is no auto throttle, so the speed has exceeded quite a lot. So we need to reduce the throttle until the speed stabilizes around 250 knots. So I'm currently still using the heading mode only to get the aircraft near the desired GPS route a little bit, otherwise it won't capture it. Uh, and the manual says that it needs a 45-degree intercept before it can capture the navigation path. So it's a bit of a hassle, but yeah, let's see how it goes. And as you can see, I've already selected 10,000 feet as my desired altitude. So we'll see if the aircraft stabilizes at that altitude. Let's increase the vertical speed a little bit, and the airspeed has stabilized, so we'll increase the throttle a bit, and we are approaching the GPS route. So I'll move the autopilot knob to nav mode, and as you can see, the aircraft has turned and follow the desired GPS route. So as you can see, there is a bit of manual work involved over here. uh, After takeoff, the aircraft didn't automatically follow the navigation or GPS route. I had to first use the heading mode to make the aircraft turn towards the GPS route, and then engage the navigation mode or the GPS mode on the autopilot and the flight director, and then the aircraft, as you can see, is turning appropriately to follow the desired route. Now we'll see if the aircraft stabilizes at 10,000 feet or not. Yes, I think it has stabilized at around 10,000 feet, which is the altitude which we had set. So that is good thing. Yeah, so more or less the aircraft is following the route and the pitch which we had set, and there is some manual, bit of manual work which is involved in making the aircraft follow all those parameters. But I think this being a vintage aircraft, they had a lot of manual flying to do as well on their part. So I think that is understandable. So as you can see, the aircraft overshot this particular waypoint, and it has going in some other direction. and there is no indication of it turning as well, so that is an issue we can see over here. I'm not sure if it's an issue or whether it's how it's supposed to be, but yeah, that is quite a bit of work. So if there is a sharp turn, I think the aircraft won't follow the set GPS route, is what I feel. This is how it is. You need to be ready if you want to fly this aircraft. I think part of it is this being a vintage aircraft, and part of it is being, is how the aircraft is modeled in MSFS. So yeah, it has turned green, and the aircraft is still approaching the GPS flight path, and we'll see if it turns to follow the desired heading or the path. Yes, so it is turning, which is good. But again, this is a lot of manual work which you'll need to do. Yeah, so that's about it. That's how you manage the aircraft altitude and the flight path. Once I approach the destination airport, we'll meet there and I'll try and show you how to capture the glide slope and the localizer if I'm able to do so. So yeah, fingers crossed. See you there. So we are reaching our destination airport shortly, so I'll bring the aircraft down to the minimum safe altitude of 2000 feet. So let's see how the aircraft descends. We'll need to control the speed again, so I'll just bring back the throttles. And we have a descent rate of about 2000 feet per minute. We'll also need to slow down the aircraft, so I'll engage the speed brakes a little bit. Now let's descend, and I think since this aircraft needs a lot of manual intervention, what we'll do is we'll uh, switch on to the heading select mode once we are at the minimum safe altitude, and then uh, I'll review the localizer frequency and all once again, and then we'll turn the aircraft to towards the final approach point, and yeah, we'll take it from there because we have to first engage the localizer VOR mode, and it will capture the localizer mode, which it will indicate with the green light over here. Then once the localizer is captured, we'll turn both the autopilot and flight director modes to GS auto or auto approach for the flight director, and it should show us an orange or amber indicator over here that the glide slope is armed, and once the glide slope is captured, it should turn green along with the localizer. So that is what we expect to get out of this autopilot. So let's see how it goes. So it shows over here that we have captured the GPS route. Let's see. Once we are established on that route, we'll switch to VR or localizer mode on the GNS because that's what we need to do to capture the localizer and glide slope. So currently we are CDI is GPS. We'll select it to VR VLOC mode shortly. Let's try and see if it works right now. We'll move the CDI to VR localizer. So yes, as you can see, we have captured the localizer. So what I did was we were uh, we had selected GPS mode over here. So I clicked the CDI button to change it to VLOC mode, and also s- set the autopilot to localizer viewer and the flight director to view our localizer mode as well. And now as you can see, it's following the capture, it has captured the localizer. So now we can go ahead and set the glide slope intercept mode. So GS auto for the autopilot and auto approach for the flight director. And as you can see, the glide slope indicator over here is has turned amber. So once it captures the glide slope, it will turn green and it will guide the aircraft towards the runway and follow the glide slope as well. So yeah, let's wait and see. And yes, glide slope has been captured as well. As you can see, VOR localizer and the glide slope both have turned green. So that's good. Now all we need to do is reduce the aircraft speed, set the final approach course over here, and get ready for landing. Near the runway, we'll disengage the autopilot. Yeah, so applying the reverse thrust now, and they do work in this aircraft, and the aircraft has slowed down as you can see. So we'll reset the flaps and taxi to the gate. But yeah, that's about it. I hope you found it useful, and see you again in the next video. Thank you. Bye bye.